As it turns out, the more we try to strengthen our identities, our personas or egos, the more attached we become to them. And the more attached we become to them, the more vulnerable we are to the suffering caused by taking things personally. When this suffering occurs from taking things personally, it shows up as fear and not feeling enough. And when we're in a place where we're afraid or not feeling enough, we have this urge to strengthen who we are. Fear arises from threats that we perceive to our beliefs, our values, and our behavior. And feeling not enough means that we don't think we're getting the full benefits that are associated with having a persona or an identity. Benefits such as a set of skills that inspire confidence, that lead us to be able to create a sense of meaning in our lives. And so we react to this suffering by trying to strengthen our identities. And when we strengthen our identities, we have more attachment and more suffering. And it becomes a vicious cycle. And if you haven't been there, then you're probably not human. We've all had these experiences again and again. No matter how many years Kay and I are together, and how well I get to know her, and how much I know she cares about me and loves me, there are still things she can say that I take personally, even though they're not meant personally. It probably happens about 3 or 4 days out of 7. It actually probably happens 7 days out of 7, but I'm only willing to acknowledge 3 or 4. But we stay in that cycle, and there we are. So here are some examples, some further examples of when we're inclined to take things personally. And as I mention them, you might think about your own personal situation and come up with some ways that you've recently been taking something personally, that, for instance, were spoken words from a loved one or a friend. Or perhaps you saw something on television. You saw a broadcast of some event, or you heard some newscast, and somebody in the event or what was said prompted you to take it personally. Maybe your values, beliefs were threatened. Or maybe you saw a story about somebody who did something pretty cool and you thought to yourself, I could never be enough to do that. I've got to get my act together. I've got to get stronger. One of the main reasons that we end up often taking things personally and in the vicious cycle is that in so many ways, we human beings live from a place of reactivity. And our reactivity arises out of 2 aspects of being human. One, it's instinctive. We've talked about how we are programmed, how we have evolved the first condition of being human, to avoid that which is harmful and to approach that which is beneficial. It's programmed in, it's instinctive. And then over time we form habits about how we do these, how we react. And those habits are different for each of us, and they arise out of the other three conditions: our unique genetic composition, experiences when we were young, or the social and cultural norms that have been so influential in our lives. So we have instinct and habit that put us in this place of reacting. My instinct to protect myself, the habits that have arisen over time, shaping how I perceive certain words that Kay says. All provoke reactivity. Of course, Rob has never said anything that I've reacted to, being the remarkable human being that he is. So when we're in this reactive place, it's almost by definition that we're taking things personally. And sometimes the threat is real, and we need to do something about it. But mostly the threat arises from feeling as if this identity that we have spent so many years, so many decades cultivating, that we've been so intentional about, put so much effort into, and thus are likely to be attached to, is being attacked. And then we end up suffering. The whole issue here has to do with the suffering. Remember, everything about mindfulness revolves around this notion of life is hard and we make it harder. The we make it harder is the suffering we inflict on ourselves and others. That's not necessary. However hard life is, why would we make it harder? It's hard enough all by itself. We don't need to gild that lily. So let's do a little practice around all of this. A couple of deep breaths with long, slow out breaths, letting go of extra tension and energy that might be present at the moment. Settling in, allowing our attention to gather here and ourselves to be supported, to feel fully supported by the surfaces we're sitting on. And allowing our attention to shift to our breathing. Focusing our attention on the in-breath and then the out breath. And expanding our attention to begin noticing thoughts that are arising. And in particular, recalling recent situations in which you were in a reactive mode. In particular, reacting to some difficult experience. Noticing thoughts and emotions such as fear, anxiety, stress, worry, wishing things to be other than they are. Allowing yourself to fully experience these kinds of reactions. These are the reactions that have to do with survival. With trying to get past the difficult, trying to hang on. And noticing how all of these reactions feel in the body. What sensations are showing up? Where? Just being with these sensations. Knowing what stress or resistance or wishing feels like in the body. And now letting go of this experience. Taking a few deep breaths. And recalling a recent situation in which you ended up in a place of connecting and caring. In addition to connecting and caring, perhaps there's some sense of generosity. or gratitude, or simply seeing clearly what's happening. These are experiences of thriving, experiences that are beyond, more than simply surviving. And tuning in to how these experiences show up in your body. Considering which of these experiences, reactive or caring, is more about taking things personally. And being with the differences.